Well, greetings to everyone down in Guyana. We are happy to be back with you, even if it's by way of video recording. This is lesson number 4 in our study of how to have a happy home and a happy marriage. And as we've said in other lessons leading up to this particular lesson, homes are the greatest hurt in every society everywhere. And as I've said before, a lot of what I have in this series of studies certainly comes from the United States. A lot of the same things are true down in Guyana and other countries of the world. And so it's important for us to study the home. The home is the foundation of any society, and it's the foundation of the church. And so we want to study it. The stronger the home, the stronger the church. And that's extremely important. As we begin this series in lesson number 1, we talked about one of the ingredients that makes homes strong is obedience. Obedience is the foundation of a strong home. It has to do with our commitment, me being committed to my spouse and my spouse being committed to me. And the same is true of you folks there in Guyana. The stronger we are in our commitment to each other, the stronger our marriage is going to be, the stronger our society is going to be, and the stronger the church is going to be. Also, we'll learn in this lesson that another ingredient for building strong homes is our willingness to care for one another and to respect one another. That's extremely important. And the more we do this, the stronger our homes are going to be. Now, this is part 2 of how to have a home worth having. And if we can follow these simple rules, then it's going to help us to build happy homes. Now, I want to look at a couple of Old Testament passages with you, and I hope you will mark some of these in your Bible because they're extremely important. If you look at the book of Leviticus, chapter 19 and verse 3, there's a word that stands out in this text that will help us in our commitment to having a happy home. God said in this passage, each of you must respect or fear his father and mother. Now, the word used here for fear is not a word that means we're going to come, shaking and trembling before our parents. Now, I must admit, as I was growing up, I certainly feared the punishment that I was going to receive for disrespect and disobedience. But I never feared my mother and my father because I knew that they loved me and they cared for me. Now we know that this word has to do with respect when we look at Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 7. The proverb writer says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge." It's the respect of the Lord and his commandments that are the beginning of real knowledge, true knowledge. And it's going to help us as we relate to one another, as we relate to our children, and as we relate to our parents. And that's so important in trying to build a happy home. In Leviticus chapter 20 and verse 9, it says, "If anyone curses his father or mother, he must be put to death. He has cursed his father or his mother, and his blood will be on his own head." Now, we're happy we don't live in this time and era because if we, cursed our parents, we would be worthy of being put to death. And today we hope that, we can correct that problem before we have to put our children to death or before our parents would have to put us to death. So all of this has to do with respect. Do we respect our parents? If there's young people in the audience, I ask that question of you. Do you respect your parents? Respecting your parents means that you listen to what they have to say. You know, they've traveled the road before. They have experience that you don't have. And so it pays for us to listen to them. Are you really respecting your parents? Is it respect if you're talking down to your parents or talking about your parents? I don't think so. There was a great preacher of the church in Nashville, Tennessee. His name was Ira North. Ira North built the largest Church of Christ in America. At one point, they had about 3,500 members. He was a good family man. Him and his wife had 3 boys, and they wanted a girl. And I can kind of sympathize with this because we had 3 boys and then our daughter. And, of course, we wanted that girl. And he loved his daughter. But one day she was in an argument with her mother. And Brother North heard this. And he called her aside and he told her, he said, I don't want to ever hear you call your mother old lady or that woman again. And he said, if you do, I hope a wart grows right on the end of your nose. Well, that was about as harsh as he could be with his daughter, but he was telling her, I don't approve of what you're doing. One thing that God will not tolerate is us disrespecting our parents. And most parents work extremely hard to set the right example before their children and to do the right thing for their children. You know, if you're a parent, sometimes we think it's cute when our 2 or 3 year old says, no, no. We tell them to do something, they say, no, no. And I've watched young parents as they laugh about this. And folks, it's not cute, because if that is tolerated when they get about 16 or 17 and they're still saying, no, no, we know that's not cute. But that training begins down when they are, the age of 1, 2, and 3. And it makes, a big difference in bringing up our children. Now, I must rush to say that parents need to be worthy of respect. And sometimes all parents are not worthy of respect. I need to live my life in such a way that it's setting the right kind of example for my children. I heard about a mother that took her son to the zoo. And they were walking around looking at all of the different animals. And finally, they stopped at the tiger's cage. And the mama tiger had some little tiger kittens. And the son asked his mother, he said, Mother, what are they? And she said, they're wild kittens. And the little boy said, how did they get wild? And the mother answered by saying, because they had wildcats as parents. Well, that's how a lot of children get wild, is because they have wild parents. Juvenile delinquents usually are just young adults that are trying to act like their parents. And so we need to be extremely careful as we're trying to raise our families. We need to show respect. Now, I know there's probably parents in this audience, and you have parents, and you need to be willing to respect your parents and show your children how that's done. Another thing that we need to do is we need to give thanks for our parents. We need to have the attitude of gratitude. Our children will respect us if we are, respecting our parents. Let me ask you a question. Have you thanked God lately for your parents? Have you told your parents, I thank God for you every day? You know, do you know how that would set with your parents? I love having our younger grandchildren to come over, and we'll have a meal, and we'll call on one of them to lead us in prayer. And they'll say during the course of the prayer, God, we want to thank you for Mama and Daddy, and we want to thank you for Mac and Paul. That's what our grandkids call us. And, it's encouraging to us that they are willing to tell God that they're thankful, for us. Now, you may not have been born in a wealthy family, and that, really doesn't matter. But what children need to understand is that mother went through the very jaws of death to bring you into this world. And for that reason, you ought to thank God for her. Fathers work hard to provide for children. Mother nursed you and carried you and cleaned you and clothed you, and in some cases even educated you. And so you need to give thanks for them. Have you thought to be thankful to mother and father for what they've done? William Shakespeare made this statement. He said, "Sharper than a serpent's tooth is a thankless child." It doesn't take much for us to let our parents know that we're thankful for them. I'm so grateful for my mother and father. Both have gone on to their reward. My dad died some 40-something years ago, but he set such a great example for me. And my mother was always willing to do whatever she could do. And a few years ago, she went to be with the Lord. And I look forward to seeing them someday. I want to tell them how much I appreciate the example that they set for me, so that as I go through life, I'm able to set that same example for my children, that, they might be the best that they can be for their children. That's how we build strong families. That's how we build strong societies. And that's how we build strong churches. We need to be thankful for one another. Let our parents know that we love and appreciate them very much. And also, in addition to giving thanks for our parents, we need to heed their counsel. Listen to Proverbs chapter 1, verses 7 and 8. It says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline. Listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching." Folks, that's inspirational. That came from God. That's not something that as parents we made up. This is what God said. We need to heed the counsel of our parents. And, when are we going to start doing that? I was young once, and, I can remember this didn't happen to me as much as it did to others, but, at about age 16, we think our parents have a room upstairs for rent and it's unfurnished. We don't think there's any hope for them. And especially about 19, we're convinced that our parents are absolutely hopeless. At age 22, we know that they're old fogies, old-fashioned, and that they'll never change. But it's amazing when we get to about age 30, we begin to think, maybe our parents do know something after all. And by the time we reach age 40, it's just amazing how much our parents have learned. In fact, we think maybe they're almost perfect. And for that reason, we really need to listen to what they have to say. Let me see if I can illustrate it this way to you. Let's suppose that you were going on vacation with your parents, and you decide you're going to go from Guyana to Suriname, and you're going to travel in different cars, and your parents are going to go on ahead of you, and you have your cell phone and you're talking to your parents, and they're telling you, okay, everything's fine going up the East Coast Highway. You get to Mahika and you turn so that you can go toward the river. But before you get to Cotton Tree, there's going to be some detours, and you need to be aware of those detours. Now, it's going to be safe if you will do what we tell you to do. Now, once you get to past Cotton Tree, you're ready to go across the river, and you can do that one of two ways. It doesn't matter. You can take the boat and go across that way, or you can use the bridge and you can go across that way. When you get past New Amsterdam, you're going to make a left on the highway that goes to Suriname, and you're going to see some beautiful, beautiful territory. There's a lot of things out there that you're going to be amazed at when you drive through Belvedere and Adams Shire, Williamsburg, and Adventure. And I want you to enjoy the sights. And you say, well, how can they do that? They can do it because they've already traveled that way. You see, they're up ahead of you, and they're just conveying back to you what's up ahead of you. And they're trying to save you from falling in the same pitfalls they fell into. And they're trying to help you to have it easier than what they had. And the thing that we need to do is we need to heed what they have to say. That's extremely important. If we do that, if we respect our parents, we heed their counsel, then we're going to build some strong homes, which is going to help our country, help our society, and most importantly, is going to help the church. And then we need to live honorable lives ourselves. It's important that, our lives are an extension of that of parents who are trying, to do the right thing. When we spent 2 years over in Seoul, South Korea, we'd always heard how close the Korean families were, how, they were really family oriented. One of the things we learned while we were there is that Korean parents live through the success or failure of their children. And these Korean parents do everything they can to help their children to succeed. They want them to produce. They want them to achieve, because when they do, that's a reflection upon them. They see how well their children are doing, and people respect the parent because, they see the children living honorable lives, and they believe that the parents are also living honorable lives. There was a great preacher many years ago. He had the first national television program here in the States, Herald of Truth, and his name was Batsell Barrett Baxter. And this man was just a jewel of a person and a Christian. When he was a young man, he told his parents that he wanted to go to Mexico and start a school of preaching. Now, he wasn't married at this time, and his mother put her arms around him, and she said, now, you've never brought me 1 minute of shame, and you're going to be alone, and you're going to be surrounded by all kinds of temptations. And I want you to, live an honorable life. You're going to be gone for 2 months, and a lot of things are going to transpire. You're going to be tempted in body, speech, and mind. When you return, I'm going to put my arms around you again, and I'm going to look you in the eyes, and I'm going to know whether you've lived honorably or not. Now, Batsell Barrett Baxter went down to Mexico. He had raised some funds, and he established the school. Now, he was gone for the 2 months, and when he came home, his mother did exactly as she said she was going to do. She put her arms around him, looked him in the eyes, and Baxter Barrett made this statement. He said, "Mother, I've lived an honorable life. I never gambled, drank a drop of liquor, or looked at a woman improperly. I would not have brought disgrace on you and Dad. I have honored my vows." Now, how many of us, as children, are able to say that? I've not brought a minute's disgrace to my parents. And I hope, young people, that you live that way. It's important, that you do. And finally, we need to love our parents, and we need to show it. Some might say, well, I don't have loving parents. Well, love, if I show love, it's going to produce love. My parents may not be the most loving in the world, but if I love them and they know it and I show it, they might love me right back. The only child that deserves perfect parents is a child that's perfect themselves. And none of us are perfect. I mean, let's face it. I might be, as good as I can possibly be, but I'm not perfect and won't ever be perfect. And since I'm imperfect, I may have imperfect parents. If I do, I need to love them anyway. And I need to let them know that I love them. My dad, before he died, was real ill. He had cancer and died at the age of 50. I was preaching down in Florida. They lived in Tennessee. I loved my dad. And I would get in the car and drive all night, 500 miles, to get home just to spend a little time with him. And then I'd get back in the car, drive 500 miles, and go back home. And I wouldn't spend but hours. That's all I could be there. And but you love somebody, you want to show them that you love them. My mother, after my dad died, I needed to help her with her home, and I would drive that same 500 miles to go home and mow my mother's grass. Could I have hired somebody cheaper and not had to do all that? I could have. But I loved my mother, and I wanted her to know that, and I wanted to tell her that, and I wanted to show her that. I mean, I've cut the grass in a pouring down rain. And the reason is because I had to go home, back to Florida. So I had to cut the grass regardless of whether it was raining or not. Neighbors thought I was crazy, but they didn't understand the circumstances. I loved my mother. I wanted her to know that. Just speaking to the kids for a moment, if there's chores that you need to do around the house, do those chores. If there's letters that you need to write to your parents, write those letters. If there's phone calls that you need to make, then make those phone calls. If you need to send flowers, send flowers. If you need to hug or kiss your parents, hug and kiss them, and let them know that you love them, that you really care. There's a day coming when your parents are no longer going to be there. That day's passed for me and for my wife. Our parents are gone, and we'll only see them the other side of eternity. You know, I've preached a lot of funerals where children have, sent flowers to their parents, and you read the inscription. It says, "To mom or dad with love." Folks, send the flowers before they die. Someone made the statement, said, "Dead noses don't smell roses." And that's true. How much more would it mean if you sent those flowers before your parents passed away? If we have that kind of love, and we're showing that kind of love to our parents, we're building strong homes. And those strong homes are going to build strong churches. And I'm certainly wanting to see the church grow and to prosper. I want it to be strong. I want the church where you are to be strong. And it begins with each one of us, doing what we need to do, showing the respect to our parents that we need to show. Now, these lessons, if you've gotten the outlines to these lessons, they have some discussion questions along with them, and I really want to encourage you to take the time to, as a group, to go through and discuss those questions. You will be enlightened, I promise you. Our societies are different. You're going to have a different slant on some of these things than what I've presented. But I encourage you to do that. Go over these questions, discuss them among yourselves, and it'll help you to grow and to prosper and to build a strong home, and in turn building a strong society and church. I've enjoyed being with you. I look forward to the next time we're able to get together to be able to discuss another way that we can build a strong home. And that's important to each of us and to our society. I'll sign off. Good to be with you. Look forward to the next time we're together. Have a good night, day. Be careful when you depart. Be safe on your way home. May God bless you and keep you is our prayer.